more complicated parts. So the, actually, let's see. Here's our first note. I'm going to have the choir demonstrate what you guys can do. First of all, what are the words? The words are ana, elna. Say that in rhythm. Ana, elna. That's the entire thing. Now let's go back and just sing 3 of those. 2, 3, 4.
Ana, elna. Ana, elna. Ana, elna.
Good. Now, join in and sing that part with the choir, and then what'll happen is you're just going to keep singing that part. It's like the foundation underneath the house. And let's all sing that together. 2, 3, and.
Ana, elna. Ana, elna. Ana, elna.
And stop. Now, we're going to start together, but you're going to keep going singing that. Thank you all for joining in. And the choir is going to add some other notes as we go along. And then there's going to come a part right near the end. We're going to hold my hand up like this so that you guys know to stop. And we have 2 bars at the end that we're the choir and we have to do by ourselves, right? Okay, so let's start up all together on that pitch. 1, 2, 3, and.
Ana, elna. Ana, elna. Ana, elna, Rafana, Ana, elna. Ana, elna.
And thank you all.
It's time for the responsive reading.
Correct? Let's sing and rejoice first. Sing and rejoice first.
Sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, let all things living now sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, sing and rejoice, let all things living now sing and rejoice.
So if you would turn to responsive reading number 600 and 601. I'll read every other sentence and you read the other ones.
Right.
Everybody find it? The space within. 30 spokes share the wheel's hub.
It is the center hole that makes it useful.
Shape clay into a vessel.
It is the space within that makes it useful.
Cut doors and windows for a room.
useful.
Therefore, profit comes from what is there,
Usefulness from what is not there.
We're going to do 611.
Oh, 611.
611. 611.
All right.
So 611.
you turn to 611, please. Okay, I will read the first paragraph and you can read the paragraphs in italics. Brahman, I am the self that dwells in the heart of every moral creature. I am the beginning, the lifespan, and the end of all.
I am the radiant sun among the light givers. I am the mind. I am consciousness in the living.
I am death that snatches all. I also am the source of all that shall be born.
I am time without end. I am the sustainer. My face is everywhere.
I am the beginning, the middle, and the end in creation. I am the knowledge of things spiritual.
I am glory, prosperity, beautiful speech, memory, intelligence, steadfastness, and forgiveness.
I am the divine seed of all lives. In this world, nothing animate or inanimate exists without me.
I am the strength of the strong. I am the purity of the good.
I am the knowledge of the knower. There is no limit to my divine manifestations.
Whatever in this world is powerful, beautiful, or glorious, that you may know to have come forth from a fraction of my power and glory.
Thank you.
So, apologies to my long-suffering wife who has to listen to the same jokes over and over again. But the Dalai Lama comes to New York City and wants to have the best pizza in New York. So they take him to John's Pizza on Bleecker Street. And he orders one with everything, of course. And the pizza comes out and he pays with a $100 bill. And he's waiting for his change, and he's waiting for his change, and after 20 minutes, he says to the conman, "Where's my change?" The conman says, "Change comes from within." So, what does that mean? So, when we are born, we are a pure divine consciousness, whatever you think that is. It could be Mother Nature, God, it doesn't matter. So imagine a beautiful mountain lake, and it's completely calm. And you could reflect the mountains in the water, the image, the lake's a mirror. And that's the divine consciousness. And a wind comes along, and now there are little ripples in the lake. And a stronger wind comes along, and now we have some waves. And the waves think that they're better than the rest of the lake because they're higher. And a stronger wind comes along, and there are bigger waves and smaller waves. And the bigger waves think they're better than the smaller waves, who think they're better than the lake. But the reality is, the big waves, the small waves, and the lake are all drops of water. And they're not any different. They're all the same. So we go through life, and we're so busy with everything that we're doing that we've made a thought of what life is in our head. And we think this is the reality of what life really is. And our psychological profile has made the world different, maybe, than what the world really is. And it's not who are you, it's who am I. When we go to a party and we meet someone, we go up and say, "What do you do for a living?" Why? Why does that matter? Why don't you ask, "Who are you? What type of person are you?" That's important. And think of an artichoke. We don't eat the leaves of an artichoke. We peel the leaves away to get to the heart. Our divine consciousness, when we're born, has all these layers of stuff that we've put over who we really are. So I have a house. I'm what my profession is. I'm a husband, I'm a wife, I'm a parent. I have more degrees than you do. I have more money than you do. Is that who you are? Or is that the leaves that you've put over who you are? Is your purpose in life to come here and just put leaves over your divine consciousness, or were you sent here to realize who you are? So don't think of yourself as a machine. A lot of us, you meet people and you see, what are you wearing? Oh, you're wearing designer stuff, you must be better. Or you're richer. Or you're driving a Mercedes and I only have a Prius. Does that make you better? You have a bigger house. Does that matter to who you are? What kind of person are you? That's what's important. How do you think of yourself? Do you think of yourself as a person who's accumulated all this stuff? And George Carlin used to say, we work hard to pay for our stuff, and then we could get a bigger house because we've worked so hard and made more money, and now we buy more stuff. And now we work harder, and now we need to buy a bigger house because we have so much more stuff, and before you know it, all your life, you work for your stuff. Did you find out who you are? Is that important to you or not? So you are the doorway to the existence of who you are. And that's not an easy concept for some of us. It's who are you inside. Some of us don't want to know that. And you have to understand first what's going on outside of you before you could understand what's going on inside of you. So outside is what you've accumulated going through life. There's all these things that are filtering into the computer that's your mind. But your body is just a heap of food that you've been putting in all your life. Your mind is just a bunch of impressions that you've been accumulating all your life. You know you have a body, you know that you have a mind, but where are you? How do you know what's inside of you? How do you know what you're inside, who you really are? So the stuff we accumulate, that's nice, it makes things comfortable, but did that help you find out who you are? So we get a new smartphone, and we really want to learn how to use it. So we read the manual, and so we get really good at learning how to use it. Are you doing that with yourself? Are you finding out who you are so you know how to use you? Are you just this, machine, or are you really a person that has a mind, and there's something inside of you that you suggested? Everything I say is suggesting. My wife told me a long time ago as a teacher I shouldn't be saying should. She said, you should never say should. So everything is a suggestion. And everything I'm saying to you are words. So you could come to me afterwards and ask me, how do I find out, who am I? And I could give you words, but that's not the way you're going to find out who you really are. So prayer that we do is when we are talking to God, or divine, whatever you want to call it. Meditation is when the divine talks back to you. And that's one of the ways you're going to find out who you really are. So I have a multiple choice test, and you don't have to shout out the answer, but I want you to think about the 5 choices. So the question is, who do you need to be? A is thinner. B is smarter. C is better looking. D is just better overall. Or E is myself. And the choice you make is something you have to think about. So you need to remember who you are. You need to forget who they told you you were going to be. My mother, when I was young, told me I was going to be a teacher, and I rebelled against her. And it was her decision. It took me about 40 years to realize that that's who I wanted to be. And it was a long process and a lot of internal thinking to see what's inside of me, what do I want to bring out into the world. So there's an interesting story. A man wants to commune with the divine. So he's tired of living in the big city, and he goes out into the forest so he could get closer to the divine. And he finds a nice secluded spot, and he sees a fox there. And the fox doesn't have any front legs, but the fox's skin is beautiful, shiny. This fox is healthy and fat, and he's thinking, how is this fox able to live without being able to hunt? And he sees a lion coming, and he scampers up the tree, and the lion brings some food to the fox and then goes off. So he comes down and he says, this is where I'm going to commune with the divine. This is a holy, sacred place. I'm going to sit here like the fox does, and I'm not going to eat, I'm not going to drink, I'm going to wait for the divine to provide for me. And he does this for a week, and he's almost dead. There's no food, no water for a week. And a holy man comes along and sees him and says, "What happened to you? Why are you almost dead? What's going on?" And he tells a story about the fox and the lion. And the holy man says, "Yes, this is a sacred place. This is a holy place. But why are you imitating a crippled fox? Why are you not imitating the generous lion?" So this is a choice we all have to make to help bring out the good, everything that's in us. So I'd like you to gently close your eyes, sit comfortably, and bring your attention into the present moment. Slowly breathe in and out through your nose, if that's available to you. Bring all your attention from the source and everything around you. Focus on your breathing and create a peaceful thought. Maybe that's, "I'm a peaceful soul," and just repeat that over and over to yourself. But if you have problems in life, maybe you could think, "My well-being is not attached to any outcome." And slowly have one of those thoughts, or whatever thought works for you, and gently breathe in and out, and remember this feeling that you have, and take it with you throughout the day. So, the problem is, how do you find out who you are? So you can gently flutter your eyes open. So there are lots of ways. One is meditation, which is, you could do guided meditation, you could repeat these phrases. There's a great app called Insight Timer, INSIGHT, that you put down what your problem is, sleep, anxiety, depression, what religion you want. They have all these free guided meditations. And meditation has been proven scientifically to help you calm your body down and help you find out who you are. So there are a couple of things to do to lead you to who you are. One is lead a life of nonviolence. And it's nonviolence to yourself, it's nonviolence to other people, it's nonviolence to animals, and it's nonviolence to the environment. And ideally, you would return to the level of subsistence that we had in the Garden of Eden, where we were created to be vegetarians. And even vegetarian, maybe a vegan would be better, if that's possible. If you're not a vegetarian or vegan, then I would suggest take one day a week and try it and see how it goes. We know that eating animal products causes heart disease, obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cancer. So nonviolence to your body would mean putting in what works for you. And back in the 60s, they said you are what you eat, and they were right. Another way is truthfulness. Try not to spread gossip. Try to only talk to people about what is real, what is honest. Don't steal. And the concept of not stealing is not just don't go into a store and shoplift. It's don't take more from the world that you need. Do you need a $50 million mansion? Do you need a second yacht? There's a minister I heard on, has 4 jets, and he's trying to raise $50 million to buy a 5th jet so he could spread the word of God all over the world. Does he really need that? You know, living in moderation is something that's going to help you find out who you are inside. Not being too greedy, being content with who you are and where you are. There's a teaching in Hinduism, Buddhism, Kabbalah, that 10 years ago, if you had 3 choices in life, whichever choice you picked, you would be sitting in this room listening to me right now. You just would have had a different life path getting here. You are where you're supposed to be. Worrying about yesterday is depression. Worrying about tomorrow is anxiety. Being the present moment. Study spiritual books, study psychology, philosophy, whatever works for you. And that all will try and help you find out who you are inside. Have faith in something, whatever it is. It could be just the community of this church. It could be a religion, some practice. You know, just because I read a couple more spiritual books than you might have read, doesn't mean I know any more than you do. You know, so if you want to follow someone that works for what you're doing. Take care of your body. Do something physical. I like yoga. Whatever works for you. Do a breathing practice. It's been proven that when you sit and breathe slowly, like I asked you to do before, it releases oxytocin and serotonin in your brain, which is a natural Valium, and helps calm you down. It also drops your blood pressure. So if you're ever going for a physical, before you do your blood pressure test, slowly breathe in and out. And it's recommended you breathe in and out through your nose. You breathe in for the count of 3, you hold your breath for 3, breathe out for 3. Eventually you try and breathe out double the amount of time that you're breathing in. My wife had some procedure in the hospital, and she was hooked up to monitors, and she actually wanted to see, does this really work? And she did her yogic breathing, and she saw her BP drop. So take care of your body. Focus on who you are. Concentrate on who you are. Meditate. All these things are going to help you, you know, and do it now. Don't wait till you're on your deathbed and you say, oh, who am I? You know, try and work on that now. Any way you do works for you. Everything I gave you is a suggestion. It doesn't mean what I'm doing myself works for you, it works for me. I'm 70 and a half. I didn't start my spiritual quest till I was 58, and it took me till maybe 6 years ago to kind of figure out who I am inside, and I'm still working on it. And I still have a problem in that I do like I bought this shirt with the ohms to look good here. I wouldn't mind having a Mercedes, but you know, do I really need that? You know, we have a nice Hyundai that works. You know, so it'd be nice to have a bigger house and all that, but that's not going to change who I am. And so that's the thing. can you figure out who you are inside? That's why you're here. You know, the teaching in a lot of spiritual faiths, except for Christianity, all the faiths believe in reincarnation. And most Jews don't know that Jews also believe in reincarnation. And that if your soul has 100 things that you need to accomplish before you return to the divine, that if you get to 51, when you come back, you start at 52. You don't go back to 0. So whatever you learn in this lifetime is a plus. And there's an interesting story. The Baal Shem Tov, who started the Hasidic movement 350 years ago, and he taught that singing and dancing to the divine is more important than all the words that you could say. And in Judaism, if you're married for 10 years and you don't have a child, you have to get divorced. And this couple loves each other. They're married 10 years, no children. So the wife goes to the Baal Shem Tov and says, you're holy, can you intercede with God for me? I don't want to leave my husband. And so he says, okay, don't worry about it, go home. And 9 months later, she gives birth to a baby. And everything's great. And the baby dies at 6 months. And they sit Shiva and the month mourning period, and she goes back to the Baal Shem Tov, and she's pounding on his chest, what kind of sick God is this that did this to me? And he said, you don't understand. This baby was a very old soul that just needed a short time on life to finish its mission, to find who it is. And God chose a righteous couple to place this baby, to help this baby finish. And you were chosen as that couple. Now you could believe this is true, or the other choice is that young children die at young age for no reason. So you need, I suggest, you don't need, I suggest that you take whatever can work for you and try and see who are you inside. You're not your profession, you're not all the degrees you have, you're not your house, you're not your car, you're not your clothes. There's something inside that's you. And the trick is trying to figure out who that is. So remember, it's not what people say you are. It's who you find out that you are. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Reflection?
Yep.
I think we're going to reflect.
Yes, this is the time for congregational reflection. I'm first going to read 2 quotes that Betsy found and texted me, emailed me with. One of them is from Dr. Seuss. Be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter, and those who matter don't mind. And one from Albert Schweitzer. The path of awakening is not about becoming who you are, rather it is about unbecoming who you are not. So for those of you who choose to do so, this is a time for you to share a few brief, respectful remarks about the ways in which the ideas raised during worship touched you. Jim will pass the mic.
Thank you so much for a great sermon. I really appreciate that. It's called a sermon? Yes.
I guess.
It was marvelous. Thank you so much.
Hi, John Midori. Thank you, Rabbi. As you were speaking, you started out with the lake, who the little waves thought they were better, and the bigger waves thought they were better. And as you spoke about peeling back the layers and getting to your core, the question that I wonder is, if everybody gets to their core, are any cores better? If at my core I am very selfish, and someone else is very giving, are they better than me?
Well, the answer is, are you really selfish at your core? That might just be something that you have in your mind. Just like all the drops of water in the lake and the waves are all exactly the same, all our cores are the same. What you think you are, selfish, it's not, yeah, but you know, it's not, what, this thing we have in our head, that's not really who we are. This is all the input that's been coming in from this crazy world. And you know, some of the happiest people are people living in little Hudson third world countries, because they don't have to have the new iPhone 11 that's coming out, or you know, the bigger screen TV, all this. You know, they're simple. They're maybe closer to getting who they really are than we are. We have so much stuff to peel away in this country. You know, and we're bombarded by stuff. And where are you going to go in at least Western countries that you could find that quiet place to really work on yourself? Sitting in a cave like some monks do, or going in fasting all your life and all that, is that really going to help you? Because we still have to interact with the world. So once you find out who you are, you want to help other people any way you can. Charity. Charity doesn't mean that out of the goodness of your heart, you are giving something to someone else. Charity, in my opinion, means that you're obligated to do this. So my parents are Holocaust survivors. My parents starved for 5 years. I was raised to always give food to people who ask for it. So when we see beggars on the street, if they're smoking cigarettes, I don't help them at all. Okay? You can afford, in Manhattan it's $14 for a pack of cigarettes. You can swing that, you don't need my help. But I ask them, why do you need some money from me? And if they say I'm hungry, I'll take them into a deli and buy them a sandwich and a coffee. And because I know the money is going to the right place, because we know a lot of these people are mentally challenged, so I don't want to give them stuff that's going to feed the bad part. But there's no reason, you know, you're talking about $5, buy a sandwich and a coffee. So, but that's something that we could do. That's what I consider charity. You know, Maimonides has 10 forms of giving. The highest form is anonymous giving. But giving to a hospital and getting your name on the wall, it's okay. But did you need your name on the wall? And actually, they say, Maimonides said helping animals is a higher form than helping people, because the animal's not going to do anything for you in return, except maybe love you. No? Did that work for you? Remember, everything I say is a suggestion.
It costs some other questions, but.
Okay. Well, with coffee, we could discuss that. Anyone else?
Thank you. Thank you, Rabbi. Now that you mentioned animals, I've become more and more passionate. I think my dog has something to do with that, the love of my life. But it's really, really, really cool and encouraging that there was just a law passed. We'll see whether or not it gets signed into law. But it's making a federal felony for any kind of animal abuse, which, and apparently it was bipartisan. And, you know, it's interesting, I mean, I think it's funny, I think both Democrats and Republicans agree that, you know, in general, animals are better than people, you know? So, but in any case, I think it's really encouraging to see that kind of compassion that's growing, you know, across our partisan divide.
So an interesting thing about that is, are they going to include factory farms? Because the animals, if you ever go and you know, Paul McCartney said if animal farms had glass walls, we wouldn't be eating animals. So what they're doing to these animals is torture. Now California passed a law that you have to have a certain amount of space for each type of animal. And the meat packing industry and all the farmers are trying to fight that in court because they said that's going to raise the cost of food. But should that be the criteria? And up until World War II, no one ate meat 3 times a day. If you were lucky, you ate it once a week. This is the modern problem. And besides it being your health, it's also the environment. I just finished a study at Cornell this summer in plant-based nutrition, and you could look up Dean Ornish. He's shown over 30 years that heart disease, type 2 diabetes, and prostate cancer can be reversed through diet. I'm not telling you don't take your meds. If you're diabetic, I suggest you tell your doctor that you're going to try this, keep taking your meds, keep monitoring, but you'll see that a lot of people in 6 months get off their meds with this type of diet, which is good for your health, it's good for the environment, it's good for the planet. And one thing to understand, my wife's a retired nurse practitioner. She had a whole semester of nutrition. Doctors have 1 hour in their training. And doctors, most of that training is how is the food you're going to eat interact with the pharmaceutical that you're going to take. And so if, I heard one vegan heart surgeon say that before she became a vegan, she said people would come to her with chest pains and she'd give them a statin. And if that didn't work, she would give them a stent. If that didn't work, bypass surgery. And she said she gets paid $15,000 for putting in a stent for 15 minutes. But there's no code in any of the insurances for nutritional counseling, which takes more. Doctors don't know this. So if any of you have any health problem, take a look at what's out there about plant-based diets. Now, I was a vegetarian since 1997, but I was eating processed vegetarian meat, like Morningstar and all this stuff. And my blood pressure was high, and I developed a belly, and my wife is saying a man with a belly is gonna have a heart attack. So I was taking this course, and my wife said, if you're gonna talk about it, you have to live the life. So I gave up all dairy, all animal products, June 1st, and I did what's called intermittent fasting, where you eat what you eat all day, but I eat it in an 8-hour period. I dropped 28 pounds since June 1st, and my blood pressure went down, and I dropped 5 inches on my waist. So this is the healthiest I've been in 40 years. And I have a new hip. 3 years ago, I thought I needed another hip. And when I dropped the weight, my other hip doesn't hurt anymore. Because every pound you lose is 4 pounds less pressure on your body. So I dropped over 100 pounds of pressure on my other hip, and now I'm probably not going to get the surgery. So these are all things but that doesn't help me find out who I am. It just helps my outside get better.
Hi, I'm Sue Magananima. Thank you so much, Rabbi. I come to services here to get different ideas, different opinions, and you certainly shared quite a bit with us this morning. And as a member of the Guest in the Pulpit Committee, I'm very happy that Lenore suggested you, and I really want to thank you from the bottom of our heart for coming and for sharing your unique perspectives. And the whole idea of this year is we will get a variety of ideas in the pulpit, and that makes all of us open to so many new things. We're having other guest Unitarian ministers, we'll be having lay people, and it's just great that you shared your unique Buddhist, Jewish perspective. It's quite enlightening. And what was your, the name stands for?
So Samtosha is a Sanskrit word, which is the ancient Hindu language, which means contentment.
Contentment, thank you.
So, and what's interesting about that is, so my name is Sam, and my wife teaches yoga at Integral Yoga in Manhattan, which was started by Swami Satchidananda, who opened up Woodstock. And he's the Woodstock guru. And everyone in the world spells it S-A-N, but he spelled it S-A-M. And I felt that he did that because he knew I would come along one day and need a Sanskrit name. And he kept it for me.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Samtosha. I'm Nancy, and I really appreciate your ideas. And one of the things I reflect on is a lot of times when we ask people how they are, their response is, I'm busy. And busyness has become, I think, a substitute for people reflecting on their inner lives. And yet, all of us sort of or at least I know, I sometimes say, well, in my next life, I would be able to sit quietly and reflect all the time. And we know that's not the case. We are all busy, and the challenge is how to busily also embody our values and how to, in each activity, try to deeply reflect upon what our values are, how to walk our walk. And boy, easier said than done.
It is, but so there's a teaching by Menachem Schneerson, who started the Lubavitch Hasidic movement. And he taught that there's a giant scale of justice in the world. And you never know what's going to tilt it to the plus side forever. So when you leave this building, if you see a piece of garbage in the parking lot and you pick it up and put it in a garbage can, that might be it. So you don't know. So the idea is go through life doing as many positive things as possible. It helps the world, and it helps you find out who you are inside. So I have one more thing to say. If anyone has any more comments before I do it? Anyone? Okay. So this is a poem that I really like, and it's called You Are Amazing. As you are, stronger than you know, more beautiful than you think, worthier than you believe, more loved than you can ever imagine, passionate about making a difference, learning, growing, not alone, warm, giving, generous, funny, smart, whole, brave, and so, so, so much more. So I'd like to end my part with, I bow to the divine light that is in each and every one of you. Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste.
I will play this through so that you can hear how it goes. And I think we should sing it twice through because it's short.
Flame is extinguished, but not our hope for the future, our courage in the face of crisis, or the love we share in all the world.